I wish I hadn't been hyped up by the media and my real estate agent. I felt pressured into buying this property. Interest rates since I purchased have risen and my business income has decreased. I am getting very uncomfortable with my monthly payments.
Hey folks, it's Braden Coop from Remax Kelowna and the Stoneman Coop Real Estate Group. Today we're talking about 3 buyer regrets. Home buying is often shed in a very positive light. Nobody likes to share their bad experiences. You always hear about the wins, not the losses. So I thought it would be worthwhile for all of you to hear 3 regrets that I pulled off of the internet from internet discussions, and we'll dissect them, talk about what could have been done to make the situation better or how to avoid the mistake entirely. So the first scenario we have is some buyers who have purchased a property that's had some major underlying issues they did not know about going into the purchase. They bought in February a $600,000 property. After they purchased it and lived in it for a little while, they found multiple major problems that accumulated to a $50,000 added expense that they did not budget for. Yikes. Not something you would typically budget for in the purchase of a transaction. I'm not going to list all of the expenses you want to budget for. I'll guide you over to our buyer guide playlist, which covers all of that stuff. But I will tell you that $50,000 is not a typical expense for repairs anyways that you would budget for. Now obviously if you're buying a fixer-upper or a property where known issues have been disclosed or uncovered by you, you should have definitely known this for this to come up. Now, without knowing all that and how the transaction went down, I'll just give you a few tips of things, a part of the due diligence process that we always do here to mitigate this risk. Like I said, these things do happen. Go to any broker's office and ask around. People have had experience, dealing with situations like this. So all we can do is take the steps to try to mitigate these risks. So first things first, always get an inspection by a reputable, professional, experienced inspector. It's important to note as well that the inspections are kind of surface level, which is why after we get the inspection report back, we dissect it and we take action on anything that we see as a red flag or question mark. There's a fair bit of liability involved in the inspection process, so you won't see an inspector make too many big claims or statements based on the condition of certain items. The good thing is about the inspections is typically because of this, the liability, they are more conservative than they need to be, but there are many things within the home that they cannot actually give you a detailed health report on, which is what an inspection is. It's a health report for the home so you know the condition of it before you buy. But anything that's covered up by drywall, underground, or inaccessible, some examples of this would be electrical, plumbing, drains and sewer, foundation, framing, ductwork, insulation, and the list goes on of items. Basically, if you can't see it and look at it physically, how are you going to know what kind of condition it's in? Now, there are workarounds to some of these things like thermal imaging cameras and inspection cameras and stuff like that, but quite frankly, it's not a perfect solution and there is no perfect solution. So there always is an element of risk when you're purchasing a used home. Now here in BC, the seller is obligated by law to disclose any latent defects known to the seller. A latent defect is something that a trained professional would not be able to discover upon, like a reasonable inspection or a reasonable amount of research. An example of a latent defect would be ongoing moisture issues, a leak in the roof, or an underground spring that floods the basement once a year, those types of things, right? So the list goes on. Now, with this law in place here in BC, to some extent, you can have peace of mind that any known issues should be disclosed to you. But unfortunately, that leaves unknown issues as a potential risk. So use the inspection report from your inspector as a guide. Anything in there that comes up as being in poor health or old or end of life, definitely get second opinions. Pick up the phone and talk to some local contractors, not handymen, but actual qualified trades. And in some cases, it might even mean bringing them down to site to take a look at the issue. So here's an example that we could use. Say the inspector says the furnace is working good, but is at the end of its life. What I would be advising my clients to do is pick up the phone, connect with a local HVAC repair company, and just discuss with them what is outlined in the report. It's 20 years old, it seems to be working okay, it's a natural gas furnace, blah blah blah, and they're going to give you their take on things, and it might even include them coming down to the property, giving you a quote on the replacement value. This way you know ahead of time and you can prepare for how you want to deal with this issue. Another thing you could do is just ask the seller about it, right? Maybe they've got all the receipts and maintenance for the furnace and it turns out it is in good shape. Maybe they've been having problems and it's like, oh yeah, we should definitely, budget for a replacement here. And the last thing you want to do is be slapped with a huge repair bill after you've moved in. Another thing is if you're buying during the snowy season, a lot of the property will be covered up with snow. So you're not even going to be able to get a look at a lot of the components there. So there is some risk there as well. Now, if you're looking for more information about buying and selling, or you're a local just looking to keep up with market conditions, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our content. And if you're thinking about getting started on the home buying process, connect, we'd love to chat. Now, the second example of regret is the one that I started the video with. It's someone who got swept up in the hype of the media. They bought when the market was super hot in March of 2022. When the media was hyping real estate up, things were flying upwards, and they got into a property with a low interest rate, but they purchased at the peak of the market. Prices came down, the self-employed individual's income decreased, and he's now overextended and house poor. I don't have enough information about the story to know if the person was misled by the real estate agent or lender, but it does state that they were influenced by the media. As a human, we have biases built into our DNA. It's what's helped us stay alive for all these years. Now, some of these biases are more useful thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago than they are today. One of those things, and I think that's probably good, we've got a good example here, what happened is that humans follow other humans. It's part of what causes the ebbs and flows in not only the real estate markets, but the stock markets. Now, those who can control their emotions and understand the game are able to capitalize and make clear decisions. To quote one of the most renowned people who have mastered this skill, when people get greedy, get scared, and when people get scared, get greedy. And that's Warren Buffett. So what he's saying is if everybody's buying and the media is hyping things up, well, you're probably too late to the party. It's probably only a matter of time before things settle down, and that's going to be the best time to buy. Now, unfortunately, people have a very tough time getting around this idea, and quite frankly, in a buyer's market, buyers are less likely to actually buy because nobody else is buying, and they're more likely to wait for a seller's market to jump into the market. It sounds crazy, but it's absolutely true. Now, life happens, families expand, families shrink, people get sick of renting, etc. And a home is not a place where you should be expecting or trying to make a quick buck. It's a long-term investment, so don't get caught up in the timing of the market. Now, furthermore to that, if you're selling and buying in the same market, so exiting and entering within a relatively the same amount of time, timing becomes somewhat irrelevant. So people are always buying and selling. That's important to know. Don't try to time buying in a buyer's market or seller's market. Just buy when is right for you. And if you can keep emotions out of the equation and refer back to your budgeting and planning notes and stick to it, it's going to be the easiest way to avoid overextending financially and becoming house poor. Because as soon as you get off track, you start going with your emotions and let the media hype up your confidence and all that stuff, you're gonna, all your planning goes out the window, and before you know it, you end up like this fella. Now, the next regret is a regret on location. Buyers purchased a property that turned out to be close to a school which they knew about, but did not know the place literally turned into a zoo during pickup and drop-off times at school. They purchased the property during summer, and every time they visited the property, school was not in session because of summer break. I think my only advice for this one is don't let other people make decisions for you. Everybody has a different tolerance to risk, different preferences. If you stay involved in the entire process from start to finish, you're going to be the one making these decisions and seeing the information. If you hand off the responsibility completely to somebody else and you don't ask questions and you're not involved and you're not doing research, well, the person you're putting your trust in is the one making the decision and using their judgment, which is different than yours. And it's not that they're trying to pull one over on you. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are people out there like that, but it probably just came down to the fact that this agent's tolerance to being near a busier street was a little higher than the purchaser. And it didn't seem like a big deal to them, so they never brought it up as a concern. As a home buyer, you cannot expect your agent to make decisions exactly the way you would. Therefore, you should be involved in the process. Most people don't have an issue with doing this, and they're very good about doing the research and being involved and asking the questions. But for some people who just hand the wheel off or let go of the wheel, this is going to be the result. If you have any questions or would like to consult about how to get started or anything real estate, connect with us. We'd love to chat. And so until then, we'll see you on the next one.